Hey everyone, and welcome back to Let's Talk About It. Today we are with one of my absolutely favorite people, Debbie Saviano. I don't even want to age myself, but I don't remember when we actually met. It's been a number of years, but I've had a chance to get to know her as a friend, but also as a businesswoman. And one of the reasons why we want to invite her here today is because she is very masterful when it comes to social media, and more specifically, helping people to understand all the different reasons why it's beneficial, understanding platforms like LinkedIn, which I have shared with her that is still an area that I haven't dived in a whole lot, but not just all of that part of it too, but Debbie's also a champion of really helping people to grow and to build and to be able to be successful with their online presence. And so I could not think of someone that I would want to start this particular topic than her. So I'm excited to have you here, Debbie. Welcome.
Thank you so much, Kim. Yeah, it's interesting how many years ago we met at, I think it was a Panera Bread.
It was.
We were going to meet for like 30 minutes because neither one of us were sure if we had that much in common. I think 3 hours later, we didn't want to stop then, but we had to because of children and stuff.
Exactly. Well, I'm so glad you're here today. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
So it's so fast. I'm married to my high school sweetheart, been happily married, have 2 kids, 5 granddaughters, and this ages. I have a great grandbaby, Sadie Mae, which is just a lot of our lives. But I tell people I'm kind of a nomad because growing up, I moved like 30 times. And I think that's why I've never met a stranger, because when you move that many times, you gotta get in and get fast and meet people, right? And I've just maintained that. I love people. I love relationships. I love all the stories people bring to the table. And I think we're here one time and we have a responsibility to leave the space better than when we entered it. So, yeah.
I agree. Great grandbaby. Oh my gosh.
Most people assume it's my granddaughter. And people, yeah, it's Macy's baby. Yeah.
Oh, that is so awesome. Yeah, she's beautiful too. But when you say that, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, because you're so like young, to me, you just are like, I would never think.
Well, it's funny because Macy just the other day, she says, Grandma, I got a lot of friends with grandparents, and trust me, you are nothing like those people. I said, well, thanks, Macy. That's sweet.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so we'll jump right in. So I know social media is your area of expertise. Why do you think that is a non-negotiable, something that people must have? And let me preface this. The reason why I'm asking is because I know that even though we know it as career women and business women that social media is important, I still hear those conversations where people feel like, I don't need it. Let me get off of it. It's negative. It's that. But in today's world, it's necessary. So why do you feel like it's necessary?
I think it's necessary because it's everywhere. Whether we go out to eat somewhere, whether we go have our hair done, it doesn't matter what we do, right? It's always social media is part of it. None of us leave home without a phone in our hands. None of us. And so we're totally connected all the time. It's such an integral part of our lives. I mean, think about it. We watch television, the news, and it's popping up like it's on Facebook. Follow us here, there. The thing with LinkedIn that's a little bit different with that, it's the only professional platform, and we can talk about that more later. But it's just that social media it's everywhere. It's totally personally, obviously for personal reasons, and professionally. And I think that's the biggest thing that people don't often think about. There's no boundaries. Think about it. You're in one space, I'm in another, but we're able to come together because of technology. Well, that same technology has driven social media. That's why we're able to do what we're able to do. But we communicate, we find jobs, we share work. There's just so many things that we can do because of social media. There's truly no borders. And we've seen that with Ukraine. They're able to share their story and what's going on because of social media. We couldn't do that if we didn't have it. So I'm a huge proponent of it. And the part about the negative, Kim, that's so true. But I also think it gives others an opportunity, and I know you and I are on the same page with this, to be positive. And anyone who knows me knows, and I know it's the same with you, never go negative. Go in the bathroom, have a fit, whatever you got to do. Don't go negative. Be positive and be that shining positive light that we so need to be.
What do you say to people that feel like they have a hard time balancing the personal and keeping it professional? Because on one end, you and I both know people have to get to know you. And and I know for me, I'm such a private person that the idea of like sharing anything at first was like, no. But I had to find what fit for me. So what would you say to someone who feels like I don't want all my personal out there?
I think it's funny when you say that because I remember our first conversation and you and I were
Mhm.
talking about this very thing, and I'm like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
you have so much to share. Uh, I remember in the beginning, Kim, you didn't even have your picture out there.
No.
And I was like, oh my God, girl, come on. But anyway, so I think that in this course I'm teaching right now with Margot is about how to use social media to grow your business.
Mhm.
It has to be your way. It has to be what fits
Yeah.
for you. But I will
Yeah.
say this, and I say it with love, and you've heard me say it before.
Mhm.
That ship has sunk. There is no
Yeah.
private and professional. And people
Mm.
want to know, and you do such a beautiful job of this, Kimberly, sharing those personal stories that people need
Yeah.
to hear. And they're the
Yeah.
challenging ones. But
Yeah.
that's what people need to hear because everybody,
Mhm.
anyone who says they don't have something in their life, they're not telling the truth.
Yeah.
They're in denial. So I
Yeah.
think being able to share what is good for you, which I think is
Mhm.
important. You know me, I mean, I share everything. From the very beginning, I had no separation. It was
Yeah.
all the same because
Yeah.
people want, as you said, they want to know you and they want to know
Mhm.
the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Mhm.
They want to see you with
Yeah.
no makeup and I've got lounging pants on below this shirt.
Yeah.
So but I
Sound
think
like me.
finding those balances of being able
Yeah.
to share, but you're
Yeah.
right, it has to be your way. It can't be what somebody else tells you to do.
Yeah, I agree. So what would be like a good piece of advice for someone who needs to step out there in a more bolder way, and say, okay, you know what? I hear what you're saying. So where would I start? Like, what would
Okay,
I start with?
great question. So this morning in this class, we have course activities, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is to do what you just said. And
Mm-hmm.
so for one of them, she's not comfortable with her face on camera. She's not comfortable
Okay.
there. And so we gave suggestions on. I said, okay, look, show your feet, show your hands,
Mm-hmm.
show your
Mm-hmm.
work. Don't show
Mm-hmm.
yourself yet. I think for
Yeah.
a lot of women, I was talking with you about this earlier. I need to lose some weight, right? So
Mhm.
if I waited for that to get on camera, I'd probably never get on camera. But I think to just do baby steps, what
Yeah.
is something you feel comfortable with? Just show the
Yeah.
outward view, show your space. Don't show you
Mm-hmm.
yet, but do something and then see that it's not that,
Yeah.
yeah, not that
Yeah.
scary.
No, I like that because something I did when I first was even getting into the video, I was so late to the video game, with social media as a part of, interactiveness.
Absolutely.
I would record myself. And I would like make sure I felt good with it. And then I would upload. I wouldn't do any lives or anything yet.
Right.
But I wanted to get really comfortable with it. I wanted to get comfortable in my own skin. And then that was like one of my entry points and saying, okay, let me upload that because that's a little bit safer. I don't feel like I have to wait to see if someone's on, not
Right.
on. So just kind of finding
Exactly.
that way.
But that was your way and that's what worked
Yeah.
for you. And so,
Yeah.
and that's a great thing. There's nothing wrong with it. That's a perfect way to start, right?
Hmm.
Perfect. Yeah.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because social media has changed so much, even just from the last pre-COVID to now. I mean, it's just shifted so much. So what are some of the things that you have seen evolve over the last couple of years?
So I think that the one thing, and I can still remember so many people saying, well, it may not be a real thing. It might be a
Hmm.
phase, it might not be
Hmm.
staying. If we learned one thing during COVID, we learned that social media is here to stay because what
Yeah.
happened, those businesses who did not have social media, and I think of restaurants
Hmm.
in particular, I'll use that example.
Yes.
If they didn't have a way to communicate with their community, they went
Hmm.
out of business. And so
Yeah.
I think seeing that this new economy, we want more, even more so, to be
Hmm.
able to have it is a frictionless part of our business, if you will. And
Right.
because we all do different things, is it products, is it services, whatever, you've got the beautiful magazine, but you
Hmm.
want to be able to use it to show who you are and what you do. And at the end of the
Yeah.
day, it's always about why you. That's why people
Yeah.
come. They want to know why you and how can you help them. So I
Right.
think in that regard, people have accepted that it is here to stay. Doesn't mean people aren't still a little nervous and a little shy and gun shy,
Yeah.
but I think they recognize the e-commerce is just
Hmm.
huge. That
Yeah.
is everywhere. And I think that's one of the big changes with the last 2 years is that and then
Hmm.
Zooms, my gosh, we couldn't have done this if it wasn't for the technology. So
Right.
if you have the will, social media can be your highway. And
Right.
there's no gatekeepers, there's no boundaries, there's no borders. And I think
Hmm.
people see that because we connect on a global scale now, beyond a
Yeah.
shadow of a doubt. Yeah.
True. Well, let me ask you this, even with that, one of the things that I know, and I'm sure you've heard it too, because we've both probably done a million Zooms at this point, is that some people feel like social media's gotten crowded because of all the ways it evolve and it's changed and all that. So you almost kind of feel like you're lost in how much should I be putting out there? How do I cut through the noise of social media so that I'm not like going gray, not being seen?
That is an excellent point because it's true. So I
Hmm.
use LinkedIn. It's true of all of them, but I'll use
Yeah.
LinkedIn as the example. So because of the algorithms, and none of us really know what those are, right?
Mhm.
It never hurts to repurpose and redo some of what you've already done. And
Mhm.
so, me personally, and this is what works for me, I do it in the morning and I do it in the
Mm.
evening.
Yeah.
And then if I'm somewhere, I do it during the day. But otherwise,
Yes.
I'm working with clients or things I'm working on,
Mhm.
courses or whatever. But I think to be able to continue just to put baby steps out there,
Right.
and I like to tag because to me, tagging, the @ sign and the
Mhm.
name that turns blue, they've been tagged. I
Yeah.
think that then lets people know, hey, they've invited you into a conversation. And
Yeah.
what you want is engagement. The other
Yes.
thing that's really helpful is sharing. When you share other people's works and different
Mhm.
things they posted, that gets more engagement. And the more
Yeah.
engagement you get, the more people are going to see you. Research will
Mhm.
say that every person has at least 2,000 people connected to them. You and
Mhm.
I, we got a whole bunch more than
Yeah.
that, as
Yeah.
do most people we know. But the
Mhm.
point is just keep the conversations going and just know you're doing the right thing, because if
Yeah.
it is hard, we all want to see those numbers and those, the analytics, but just be
Yeah.
yourself and be out there. And I think you'll be rewarded for that.
I agree. Let me ask you about, you said something that I think that's one of the sticking points people are so afraid about social media is the numbers, it's the
Yes.
analytics, it's how many people like and follow and what have you. Would you, what importance do you put on that in terms of, yeah, I'm just gonna leave it there. What importance do you put on the likes, follows, this, that, and the other?
That so kind of a double edge here, if you will. On one hand,
Mhm.
I say to anyone else and myself, don't worry about those numbers. Like, I
Yeah.
probably once a month look at my analytics. That's it, because I
Mhm.
know that what I'm putting out there is what I feel in
Mhm.
my heart and gut should
Yeah.
be out there. But then, like, I started my newsletter and I had a goal of, because I think goals
Mhm.
are important, right? Of
Yes.
December of 2022 to have 1,000 subscribers. Well, I hit
Mhm.
that 1,000 January 31st. I was elated.
Yeah.
But I still would have done the
Awesome.
same thing with that with that
Yeah.
newsletter had I had 10 people. I would have. So
Yeah.
I think we have to be realistic and say, if you are speaking, you and I both had this conversation, Kimberly. If we're
Mhm.
speaking somewhere and there's 5 people in the room, those are the 5 that are supposed to be there.
Yep.
It only
Yep.
takes one person to make an impact. So I think we
Mhm.
have to think about that and not get hung up with the numbers, if you will, because that takes
Yeah.
away from who we are as people. It's like it's not real. It's
Yeah.
in my humble opinion anyway.
No, but it's true. I think when people see that, and you, like you said, you and I are in agreement with that, that it's really about who it is that you're actually affecting and influencing it, period. But I've seen people really get their self-esteem affected if they don't see there's a lot of likes or a lot of engagement. They quit and it becomes such a personal thing, which
Yes.
I get it that, when you work hard on your content, you want people to be able to enjoy it and consume it. But I think it also goes in hand with what you said earlier too, that you also have to be out there. Like people need to get to know who you are. They need to see different sides of who you are. Like when you mentioned how I didn't have my picture up. My business was okay, but it became greater when I started to become more personal. People could see me and all those kind of different things. And I started becoming a little bit more out there slowly. It took me a long time. I was a little turtle in that area, but
But
now I
you're a
see the
perfect
benefits.
example because you've seen and reaped the benefits and the rewards
Yeah.
of people seeing you as a person. It's like
Yeah.
someone reached out to me on LinkedIn today and they want to, which is not the positive side. They want to sell me something. They don't even
Hmm.
have a picture on their LinkedIn profile. And I'm thinking to myself, buddy, that's not going to
Yeah.
get my attention. Especially
Yeah.
nowadays. My gosh, we've come so far. When you and I
Yeah.
were having that conversation, Kim, that was, 8 or 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's a lot different today.
Yes.
People expect certain things and they expect a picture up there on your LinkedIn profile for sure.
Yes. Okay, before we jump into a couple other things with LinkedIn, because I do want to kind of dive into that, let me ask you some of this social media basis, because there were some good things that you have shared about owning your name when it comes to social media.
Oh yeah.
Can you speak a little bit to that for people who
Yes.
haven't done that quite yet?
So I use the example, if we go somewhere and we meet each other and we're talking at a party, a reception, church,
Hmm.
wherever, doesn't matter, synagogue. If we go and meet people, what do we remember? We remember their
Hmm.
name. We
Yeah.
don't remember their business name. We remember
Yeah.
their name. When
Right.
people are searching for you, they're searching for your name. And so I'm a
Hmm.
huge advocate of any time a new platform comes out, grab your
Hmm.
name, because
Yeah.
there's only one Debbie Saviano that owns all these
Hmm.
things I have. There's other Debbie Savianos. You and I both have a little bit of unusual
Yeah.
names, but
Yeah.
still there's other people with our names. And
Right.
so if you don't grab those, someone else is going to.
Hmm.
So always grab your name. You may not use
Yeah.
it now, you may not ever use it, but then in 2 years, you might say, hey, I do want to try that if you see it's
Yeah.
really growing. So always grab your handle, always.
Yeah. Yeah, I've done that with myself, and my husband has too, but we also did it with our kids
I was
because
going
you
to
just
say,
never know. I mean, social media may be totally like, different kind of thing 10 years down the road, but our thing is just in case we want to make
right.
sure they're able to own their names. So we went ahead and got their names as well.
That's the number one baby shower gift is the
Hmm.
URL. I've done that for probably
Really?
6 years. Yeah. If I go to
Oh,
a baby
wow.
shower, it's with the child's
Yeah.
name. We have Sadie Mae Summers. I mean, we have
Yeah.
all of our granddaughters, they've had their names for probably 10 years.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Yeah, 'cause I think that's important, especially now in this space. Like you said, you can have different people to have your names, but usually when you more importantly, when you reserve it, but you're also active with it and you're connected
Exactly.
to it, it's going to be able to bring up your information more. So
Exactly.
let's go back to LinkedIn.
Yes.
So I know people struggle with it. I know that some people don't see as the importance of it or see the benefits of it. Can you kind of walk us through a little bit why people struggle with it, but also what are the benefits of it?
Well, first of all, LinkedIn is the only professional platform out there. And with every other platform, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever, it doesn't matter. You
Mhm.
might happen on that with you're in the feed. With LinkedIn, you go there intentionally. And so I
Mhm.
always use the story. If we meet someone at a networking event, we're talking and they say, "What do you do?" And someone
Mhm.
rambles on about everything they do, you're looking for the nearest exit.
Yeah.
But if you have a great conversation, you just get to know each other, you talk about your personal stuff, whatever, and they say,
Mhm.
"Hey, I want to know more about Kimberly." They go to your LinkedIn profile with one intention to learn more
Mhm.
about Kimberly. And
Mhm.
so people are there for a purpose. And the
Mhm.
other thing that people don't often realize or think about, the decision makers are on
Yeah.
LinkedIn. Base salary
Mhm.
74,000 plus. You're talking about people in positions who can give you what you're seeking in your business.
Yeah.
And I think people worry with LinkedIn because it is professional. They think, am I doing it right? Am I going to
Mhm.
be judged? With which is true of every other platform too.
Right.
But LinkedIn is professional. It's not somewhere you go and put the cat memes. Now, there
Yeah.
may be 10% of the cat memes, but 90% of it on there is
Right.
professional. So I think they just worry about being judged, but people are there because they want to know more about you. It's the only
Mhm.
platform, and I mean the only platform where you are expected to fill in 100% of that profile with
Mhm.
everything that answers one question. Why
Mhm.
you? Why you? What
Mhm.
can you solve for me? What solutions do you bring me in my business, in my life, personally or
Right.
professionally? So, yeah, I'm a huge advocate for LinkedIn. There's not enough I can say about LinkedIn.
Yeah. So what do you think are some of the key areas that people need to focus on when they look into starting their LinkedIn profile, if you will?
Great question. So, the fold on your computer or on your mobile device, whichever, your headline,
Mhm.
your banner up there, I'm sorry, your
Mhm.
banner, your picture, your headline, your name, the
Yeah.
top portion. And the one thing that people often forget about is the contact information. When people, and
Mhm.
I can have so many stories in regard to this. I've had my cell number, as you know, since day one
Mhm.
on my
Yeah.
profile and everywhere else. People always judge me for it. So that's crazy. You should. I'm like, I control who I answer. If you're in my
Mhm.
phone, I'm picking it up. If you're not,
Yeah.
I'll call you back. But
Yeah.
people just want to be able to reach out to you. And if
Mhm.
they know that they can have an email or whatever, just some means of
Mhm.
communication. So that contact information is really important. So the
Mhm.
top portion, all those things are given. Then as
Right.
you move down, the about section is important and obviously
Mhm.
experience. But another thing that's really important that people don't think about sometimes is the featured section. Because
Hmm.
on the featured section, you can put links, you can put media, you
Yeah.
can put your magazine, you can put your
Yeah.
podcast, everything that's there. And it shows
Mhm.
people, again, it's kind of the skins on the wall
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
why you, because that's why they're there. Why
Yeah.
you?
That makes a good point. So, and with LinkedIn too, 'cause I know you mentioned that is a very professional platform, but I would think that the content that you put on there, like you said, you wouldn't necessarily do memes, but would it be more like blogging? Would it be more like content development kind of pieces? Because I'm sure some people, if they are not bloggers or if they're not writers in their own respective businesses, what would they use when it comes to LinkedIn, or what should they be
Great
using?
point. And you're right. It is about content. And 80% of what I do on LinkedIn,
Hmm.
pardon me, is teaching someone how to do something with social media.
Yeah.
So it's the how to's, it's the content that's going to bring value to the
Hmm.
viewer, if you will. So think of
Yeah.
it in terms as that. Now they've got the newsletters. You can do newsletters on LinkedIn. You got LinkedIn
Right.
Live because every
Hmm.
platform wants you to come and stay. They don't want you to
Right.
leave. And the more content you provide, the more
Yeah.
they're going to give you credits, if you will. They're going
Yeah.
to give you the ability to be there and to share. So you're right. It has to be professional content 90%
Okay.
of the time. There's still
Yeah.
memes, occasionally, and fun stuff, silly
Hmm.
stuff. But for the most part,
Yeah.
90% are going to be that professional. Yes.
I love that. And now you just mentioned something, two things, and I want to kind of cover both of them in a little bit more detail. I know that you do newsletter, the Books and Bites, and I know
Yes.
that's become very popular as well with you. So walk me through a little bit about that, but also how you use LinkedIn platform to help grow that and help to get more exposure even for what you do.
Okay, perfect question. So LinkedIn, and I'm so bad with dates and times because we've all been on call right for 2 years. Somewhere in the past year, they started LinkedIn Live. They started newsletters, pardon me. And so you have to be a creator, which means on your profile you put creator versus the other. Once you have creator, then you can start doing newsletters. And so I was approved for that, I don't know, several months back. And so I love to read. I love to read nonfiction books. I just happen to have this here. The last one I did was this one. So I always like to read, but I know most people don't have time. And so the Books and Bites is kind of like Cliff Notes for nonfiction books. So I go through and give 10 highlights. I talk about 2 reasons, but it's a very short read, but it gives you an overview of this book and why you might like this book. And then I share it, obviously. And LinkedIn is genius at what they do. They will send out an email to all your contacts, your subscribers, telling you Debbie has just published this. I'm really good at tagging people. Like I tagged David Meerman Scott, who's the author of this book, who I've followed for years. So you get that engagement going, and it's all about engagement. If people comment, this is kind of a cute, cool trick. If people comment that you're not first connections with, I always reach out and connect with them. I don't want to say it's 100%. It's got to be 99% because they'll always come back. So being able to share that newsletter, to be able to say this is, and see, again, I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about other people. I'm talking about the things that I think will help them in their businesses. And then I share it on Twitter, I share it on Facebook, I share it on Instagram and everything else. But I continue pulling pieces of that. I put it on my feature. If you go down to my feature, you'll see those go across there. Yes.
Now, you mentioned this quite often. I definitely want you to share some examples because I've been part of your journey for a number of years about tagging and the benefits of it, because you've had connections with Corner Bakery, Kind Bar, all of that through tagging. And I know that you do a lot of that with the LinkedIn platform as well. So share a little bit about some of the successes you've had with it and why you felt those were successes with it.
So every platform, every company, every business, they want user-generated content. They want real people on the ground talking about their product or their service, right? So I've done tagging for years, and I've always got 5 authentic brands that I support because they're part of who I am, right? As you mentioned, those Corner Bakery, Kind Bars, White House Black Market, et cetera. So when I'm strategically thinking about them, I'm always tagging. When Virgin America was one of those I was so loyal to, they always reward me. I always got a first class tickets. I got, invites to different things because I tagged them and shared it. White House Black Market, if I'm wearing their clothes, this is Chico who owns White House Black Market, but if I tag them, they will reshare that so many times. So think about that. The other day we had Sadie Mae at the Party City, and we had some silly ears on her, and I posted it and I tagged. Well, Party City has 2.2 million viewers. So when they reshare your stuff, you have the opportunity exponentially. Now, that wasn't strategic on my part for Sadie Mae. The point is, you can get in front of other people because they want to share what you're doing. Because what are you doing? You're promoting them. Every time I speak, I take selfies behind me of the people and tag White House Black Market or Chico's because they know I'm a fan. They know I'm going to buy their clothes. They want to know about those women back there looking at me. So anytime you tag, be strategic, number one, and why you do it. And number two, I always tell people have 5 different groups that you want to know you, because it's hard to think of 10 or 20, right? But if you can do 5, and you mentioned mine, see, you know mine. I mean, you know mine. And so people will associate those with you. And then you can get sponsored. I mean, White House Black Market sponsored me. Kind Bars, 9 bars for 3.5 years. They will sponsor you, and it's all genuine. It's real. It's because you really do love. So one dot, I was watching TV recently. I don't know, again, who knows, 3 months ago, and it was a show on this guy who is invented an invisible cloak, and they were talking about his patents. So I, of course, have my phone out. I get my phone out. I go to LinkedIn. I see he's there. I send him a message and I say, hey, I'm watching this show on you. Probably 10 minutes later, he responds back and he connects and he says, what show are you watching? And I tell him, he goes, oh, I'm in Canada. I don't get that show. Long story short, we have this conversation going, right? Because he does invisible wear for militaries across the globe.
Wow.
So then one day I'm watching, I always had the TV on in my office when I'm working, and there was a show on Mysteries of the Moon. And one of them was talking about 3 men in the world who own the mineral rights to the moon. And they say Guy Kramer, and I'm, what? So I'm on my computer. So I go on LinkedIn, I message him, I say, Guy, this show says He comes back and says, yes, I have it, but for the helium rights. I said, well, first of all, how
Wow.
do you get the mineral rights to the moon? But think about that, because of
Yeah.
LinkedIn, because
Yeah.
of being engaged and active,
Yeah.
I'm connected to one of 3 men who own the helium rights on the moon. That's the
Yeah.
kind of stuff you can do on LinkedIn. That's a crazy example. But who do you want to know? I'm a
Yeah.
huge fan of Chris Brogan, the Freak Show Inherit the Earth. There's no gatekeepers anymore. You can get
Yeah.
to whoever you want to get to.
Yes.
So who do you want to connect with? You
Yeah.
can do it. There's ways to do it on LinkedIn, especially because
Was
they
you
know it's professional. They know it's professional.
right? And I think the main thing that you're sharing that I think is a big miss for so many people, you engage. You're
Yes.
active with it. You're
Yes.
interactive. You're not just posting and leaving. Like you're actively commenting on people's posts. You're actively showing interest. You're actually, supporting. And I think that's the big key that some people feel like it's a waste of time or I don't have all the time. But you only spend a few minutes morning and the evening doing that, and has created really great results from that.
Well, see, and that's the thing, Kim, is it's like if we meet in person, we're not just going to come up and say, hi, Kimberly, and then we walk away
Right.
and we'll talk. We have to engage. So I
Yes.
always tell people, think of physical space. How
Mhm.
you do there is what you do in digital space.
Yeah.
It takes time. It takes deposits. It takes energy to build a relationship. It's no
Mhm.
different online and digital space. It's just people think it is, but it's not.
Yes.
You have
Yes.
to put the time in.
Oh, I love that. So talk to me a little bit about LinkedIn Live. I heard you mention it earlier. So, because I didn't even know they had LinkedIn Live, and it's probably embarrassing to actually share, but I did not know they had that on their platform now. So tell me a little bit about that.
Well, so Facebook Live, they've been on for years, right? You can
Right.
get the phone out, you can go live. Well, LinkedIn
Mhm.
started, I don't know, several months back. And I think I got my approval back in November of last year. So you have to use another platform to do it because you're
Mhm.
filming. I use StreamYard. I'm a huge fan of StreamYard.
Me too. Me too.
Yeah, love StreamYard. So I use StreamYard, and basically you can post an event. You can
Mhm.
tell people what you're going to do. You can invite
Mhm.
people to come to it.
Yeah.
The first one I did, I think I had 87 or 82 people come, which was huge.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I was so real because I was like, I kind of know what I'm doing, y'all, but I don't really know what I'm doing. But the whole thing is let's talk, because I'm all about
Yeah.
let's talk and converse. So I do LinkedIn Lives a couple times a month. And basically it's an opportunity to bring on people I might not know. Margot and I did a
Mhm.
couple when we did the course. I'm going to promote a book launch in April of a
Mhm.
94-year-old man and Deanna Shaw about their book on
Wow.
grandparenting. So it's just a way to get to talk to people and to have conversations, but it's live. And so people can come on and they can comment and everything. And then
Yeah.
you can share it on Featured and you can share it on your information. So it's
Mhm.
because every platform wants you to come
Right.
and stay and play. That's what they want.
Mhm.
And that's what
Mhm.
LinkedIn Live is. And so I love it. It's been a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
Now, how do you feel about when people say there's different times of day you should do this, that, and the other? Like, what is your thought around that?
I'm so glad you asked this. I have this really deep thing about this. How many years, and I just saw an article yesterday, imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
Everybody talks about
Yeah.
imposter syndrome. Here's my
Mhm.
thing on imposter syndrome. The reason I think we have it is because people are telling us to do things a certain way.
Yeah.
Do it my way. Well, then you have imposter syndrome because you're like, well, I'm not them. I don't have those numbers. I don't have
Mhm.
that kind of success. That isn't working for
Mhm.
me. So
Yeah.
I'm saying put that to the curb and think about what works for you.
Right.
Because you will know based on your engagement what times of day. Now, there are certain times of day. You have to think about the
Mhm.
platform. LinkedIn's a professional platform.
Yeah.
In a couple of years behind us, it was more of the work day, work week. Well, our
Mhm.
work week has changed, right?
Yes.
It's 7 days a week now. So LinkedIn is much more 7 days a week than it used to be. So think
Mhm.
about the platform and who's there.
Yeah.
Facebook is huge from Thursday to Sunday because it's the weekend and what are people doing?
Mhm.
But I say
Right.
do it your way. If whatever time works for you. And if you're like
Mhm.
doing it, no one ever engages,
Yeah.
maybe you should look at some different times. And I
Mhm.
always share with my clients the times and those schedules and all that kind of stuff. But I always also say do it your way and
Yeah.
just see, are people talking to you?
Yeah.
Are people talking to you?
I love
They'll
that.
talk to you though if you talk to them, to your point earlier.
That's very true.
That's the
The
key.
engagement.
That's the key. Exactly. That's the key. That's the big key.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So any closing thought that you would want to share with people when it comes to LinkedIn or social media or anything that they need to consider in this space? And then I also would love for you to share with them how they can get to know you and learn about where to find you at.
You did such a great job on the questions. I think the main thing I always say is that, we have this journey but once in our lives. And
Yeah.
I think that social media has given us, I always joke about this when I'm speaking. I'll say, how many of you thought that online dating was kind of weird when you first heard about it? I'd be honest, I thought it was
Yes.
very weird. But now, how many of us know people who are happy in relationships because of
Yeah.
it? Your soulmate might not live next door. They might not be in your physical sphere. Because of social media, we now can connect with those people. We all
Mhm.
have friends around the globe. So I
Yeah.
think that it's a way, and again, I'm a very spiritual person. I think God gives this as a
Mhm.
doorway for us to meet
Yes.
and connect and support each other.
Mhm.
So I just say don't let the fear, because it is fear. I mean, it's fear
Yeah.
of not doing it. And if you ever have something you want to post or share, something you just want to have someone share it with you, just reach
Mhm.
out to LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help if it's
Yeah.
possible, which I know it would be.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and then as far as getting in touch with me, it's Debbie at
Yes.
DebbieSaviano.com. And
Okay.
it's Debbie Saviano everywhere. Everywhere you go.
And you're gonna notice her with the red glasses.
But think about that, how simple that is.
Yeah.
So instead of, I could have, 3 or 4 different things,
Yeah.
it's Debbie Saviano, so it's easy to find. Yeah. So we
And
you want people to
yeah.
find you.
Exactly. And I love that about you too. And one thing, and this is like a side note, something I remember you mentioning about having your profile picture very similar so that
Yeah.
people can recognize you and recognize that's who, you are, and not seeing so many different looks all across the different platforms.
And women, we're so bad about that. Women, we like to have, we love all that stuff, the shiny object
Yeah.
stuff. And I just changed my picture because I'd had the one with Stacy and Linda and I. We had our photo shoot for Women's Leadership
Mhm.
Live, and I've
Yeah.
gained a few pounds. And so authentically, being me, real me, I wanted to have it recent. Plus, I
Yeah.
wanted the glasses. And so
Mhm.
the picture I have up now has my red glasses. And
Yeah.
everybody knows me for the red glasses because
They
I only wear
do.
black and white. So
Yeah.
yeah, you're right. It's important because people are just they're scanning, they're perusing, they're going through everything. And if you give them something to
Mhm.
latch onto, it's like, oh, that's
Yes.
Kimberly. I recognize Kimberly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah.
Very good point. Well, thank you. I'm so
Oh
glad
my
that you were
gosh,
able to
thank you,
join us
Kimberly.
today. I appreciate it so much. And we're going to make sure to have all your information when we upload this, but I appreciate your time and all your insights.
Oh my gosh, it was such a pleasure. I could talk to you for 2 hours at least. As we have
Well, we
done.
have.
I'm coming to Charlie for my photo shoot in the next
Okay.
2 weeks.
Okay.
I'm coming to Charlie, so tell him I'm coming to do that. He's done
Okay. Sounds
incredible
good.
work. I'm very impressed with the stuff he's done.
Thank you.
And
Oh, he'll
see,
be
you
excited.
share that on social media. That's how I know that.
Yes, now that's true. That is true, and I can share this with everyone. He is definitely one of those people that he's gotten so much stronger and had to realize, okay, social media is okay, because he just wasn't. He's a very private person as well.
Right.
So,
Right.
and now he's seeing the benefits of it.
But see, that's an example with Charlie. Like he shows you behind the scenes, if you
Yes.
will, so you can see the process of what he does.
Yes.
So that sells itself much more so
Yes.
than if I just saw Charlie Spencer.
That's true. That's true.
And you're seeing in real time what he does, which is
Yeah.
what people can see on social media.
Yeah, and that's where he had to find that to make it comfortable for him in that
Right,
respect.
right.
So, and like that's what I like when you shared that earlier, that you got to do what really fits for you, and not so
Absolutely.
much what everyone says you're supposed to do.
Absolutely.
It doesn't feel right if it's not who you are.
Absolutely.
That's
And
it.
someone may always only post their hands and what they do. They may
Mhm.
never show their face, and that's okay.
Yeah.
That's totally okay. Whatever it is that works, just so you can share the
Right.
genius that you're bringing to the table.
Exactly.
As I said, we could talk forever.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
You too.